strategy. 6. The strategy of praise. Welcome back, everyone, to the Heavenly Secrets Unrevealed channel. Today we will explore the next strategy in the collection of 36 strategies for human harmony, an ancient treasure trove of wisdom filled with profound lessons and techniques for navigating interactions and communication in life. In the previous video, we discussed the 5th strategy, the strategy of rewarding, which is a tactic that uses face honor to win people's hearts, maintain good relationships, and foster cooperation. Now we will continue to explore the 6th strategy, called the strategy of praise. The strategy of praise is a vital communication skill that not everyone masters. The author analyzes the levels of praise from the highest level of genuine admiration to the lower levels, which include flattery, sycophancy, and fawning, while emphasizing the distinctions between them. How to praise others at the right time. In fact, praising others has various levels. The highest level is called praise or admiration, while the lower levels include flattery, sycophancy, and fawning. High-level praise follows several key principles. Whether true or not, it must make the recipient believe it. It should leave no trace of pretense, with a calm demeanor so the recipient doesn't suspect insincerity. The tone should be gentle, as if bowing respectfully from a distance. The words must carry fresh meaning, not cliched or familiar phrases. Thus, praising others may seem easy, but is actually very difficult. The points mentioned are just a few examples. The true artistry lies in the heart, as no two situations are exactly alike. One must avoid crude, vulgar approaches that invite judgment yet not be overly sophisticated, as this can also backfire. Carelessness can easily turn praise into a laughingstock. First, praising with exaggerated, beautiful words. Praising others is not an easy task. So-called buttering up flattery or sycophancy are products of poor praise techniques because they fail to meet the standards of true praise. Even well-intentioned praise requires a proper approach. Overpraising is unwise. Praise brings a sense of honor, and honor creates satisfaction. However, if the recipient realizes you're exaggerating beyond the truth, they may feel you're treating them as foolish. It's better not to praise at all than to exaggerate recklessly. Overusing flowery words can ruin your reputation. In both traditional and modern social interactions, flattery and sycophancy are seen as despicable behaviors. Noble individuals reject them, and even petty people cannot use them blatantly. Being labeled a professional bootlicker is something even they find hard to accept. Confucius said cunning words and flattery harm righteousness. Mao Zedong, during his lifetime, repeatedly criticized vulgar, sycophantic behavior, showing that flattery is devoid of humanity and righteousness, unacceptable to society. In modern social interactions, most flatterers have a speculative mindset. Lacking self-respect and plagued by insecurity, they cannot win others over with honest language or demonstrate their abilities to achieve their goals. Thus, they resort to flattery. So, how should one praise? Praise must be sincere and well-targeted, focusing on the recipient's strengths. Generally, people enjoy being praised. Even if they know they're being flattered, they still feel a hint of joy deep down. It's a human weakness. In other words, no one truly dislikes being praised unless it's excessively overdone. The first condition for praising others is to have some genuine sincerity and the right attitude. Language reflects one's mindset, so a careless or flippant tone can easily be seen through creating discomfort. Praising behind someone's back yields greater results. Praising someone behind their back is more effective than doing so to their face. This is an advanced technique. Praising someone indirectly is the most uplifting and effective method among all forms of praise. If someone tells you that another person spoke highly of you behind your back, wouldn't you feel delighted? Direct praise might seem fake or insincere, but indirect praise feels genuine. In the 1860s, German Chancellor Bismarck, to win over a resistant subordinate, praised them to others, knowing those words would reach the subordinate. Don't be like a nouveau riche. Throwing around praise carelessly. With people you don't know well, don't say too much. Wait until you understand what kind of praise they appreciate before engaging. The most important thing is not to praise recklessly. Praise involves exaggerated, beautiful words, but they must first make the recipient happy, trusting, and receptive. Don't turn a fool into a genius. Next, the words must be elegant and refined, not crude or belittling, which could make the recipient uncomfortable. Additionally, praise shouldn't be overly blatant or thoughtless. A thief, seeing a dog pass by, repeatedly tosses it pieces of bread. The dog says to the thief, "Get lost. Your kindness scares me." The thief used all his flattery skills, but couldn't fool the dog. Second, don't blatantly try to win people's favor. When the Qing dynasty was compiling the 24 histories, Emperor Qianlong placed great importance on this task, frequently inspecting the work himself. Whenever he spotted an error, he felt a sense of great accomplishment and was delighted. He, Shen, and other high-ranking officials capitalized on this trait of Qianlong's. While copying drafts to present to him, they deliberately included a few obvious mistakes in places where Qianlong could easily spot and correct them. This was a clever tactic, allowing Qianlong to showcase his profound knowledge. It was a highly effective way to praise him. Since the emperor's edited drafts could not be altered, those errors were passed down to later generations, resulting in many mistakes in the imperial editions today, largely due to this practice. He, Shen, meticulously honed his strategies, adeptly grasping Qianlong's psychology, always finding ways to please and satisfy him. He, Shen, closely observed and studied Qianlong's personality preferences and habits, understanding his temperament and likes thoroughly. Whatever Qianlong desired, He Shen anticipated before it was voiced. For some matters, He Shen prepared solutions before Qianlong even thought of them, earning the emperor's deep favor. He Shen's flattery was masterful in two ways. First, he knew both himself and his target, always hitting the mark. Second, he acted subtly, making Qianlong feel delighted without realizing the flattery, as He Shen's actions were discreet and unobtrusive. For someone with knowledge, status, and a certain level of wisdom, elegant praise transcends mere flattery and becomes refined humility. Chen Zhongshu was such a talent. One winter, while visiting Japan to lecture on poetry can express grievances, he spoke at a seminar with professors from the literature department of Waseda University. He began by saying, "Lecturing in Japan is a bold endeavor. Even for a Chinese scholar discussing Chinese literature without the courage of a bear or a tiger, it's daunting. The reason is simple. Japan's outstanding research in Chinese literature is globally recognized. Even Chinese scholars proficient in Japanese admire and learn from Japan's research achievements. Presenting something novel to seek your guidance is no easy task. I am ignorant of Japanese facing your country's vast treasury of sinology and Chinese studies without the tools to explore it, like a man with empty hands, staring at a locked safe, only able to gape in awe. Yet ignorance and blindness often breed courage." Chen Zhongshu's opening remarks carried two meanings. First, he acknowledged that Chinese scholars dare not underestimate Japan's expertise in sinology. Even when lecturing on Chinese literature in Japan, they must respect the audience's level of knowledge. Second, he admitted his own lack of Japanese proficiency, claiming courage as his only strength. Clearly, self-deprecation is the most effective way to praise others. Third, praise must be accurate and fresh. What is the most effective way to praise someone you've just met? In my view, it's best to avoid praising their character or personality. Instead, focus on complimenting their specific achievements or possessions. Saying, "You're such a good person," even if sincere, can make the other person suspicious or guarded, thinking, "How do you know I'm good when we've just met?" However, praising past accomplishments or actions, whether big or small, is more likely to be well received. Indirect praise, such as complimenting something related to the person rather than the person themselves, is particularly effective with someone you've just met. For women, their clothing or accessories are often the best targets for such indirect praise. I have good relationships with many friends' families, and in one case I became closer to the wife than to her husband, even though he was my friend. It started at a party when her husband introduced us. To break the ice, I casually remarked, "Your earrings are very unique, rarely seen." I said this without much thought, as I know little about women's jewelry. Unexpectedly, those earrings were indeed special, only available at a boutique in Paris, and they were her most cherished possession. That offhand comment evoked fond memories for her, and from that moment we became good friends. Praising someone appropriately is no easy task. If done poorly, it can lead to rejection. To make the other person feel delighted, you must quickly identify what they take pride in or want others to admire, then focus your praise on those points. Until you discover what they value, it's best to avoid random compliments to prevent embarrassment. For example, praising a young woman who is self-conscious about being thin by calling her slender and graceful is unlikely to please her. I have a friend who is an editor and bears a striking resemblance to a famous actor. Whenever we go to a restaurant, waitresses meeting him for the first time exclaim, "Oh, you look so much like the movie star Kim Tin." Indeed, his appearance and demeanor closely resemble the actor's. Generally, being compared to a superstar is flattering, but my friend reacts differently. When waitresses praise him this way, his face darkens. Their sincere compliments are met with indifference, leaving the waitresses stunned. His reaction isn't without reason, though. He knows he comes across as reserved and cool, while the actor often plays bold, lively characters. The unintended praise inadvertently highlights a trait he doesn't identify with, turning it into a critique of his flaws. Additionally, information from a third party can sometimes be useful when meeting someone new. However, directly relaying rumors or gossip to the person can lead to disdain. If their reputation is widely celebrated, they've likely heard it all before. Repeating such praise might prompt a polite smile while they inwardly feel bored, or even say, "Here we go again," so cliché, and dismiss you as unoriginal. Even if the rumors about someone are new to you, avoid this outdated approach. Instead, praise aspects that others rarely notice. In Yoshifu Tamashima's lectures on moral education, there's a story about a general who was thrilled when someone complimented his fine beard, but indifferent to praise for his military achievements. This psychology is universal. For a soldier, no matter how much you praise their battle feats, it's just another verse in a familiar song, no longer evoking a heroic feeling. However, praising something different, like a unique trait, adds a fresh note to their praise, making them genuinely delighted. Fourth, a sweet tongue doesn't always mean a bitter heart. Throughout history, both in China and abroad, few people genuinely rejoice in hearing their flaws. On the contrary, most are delighted to hear praise. The person who first coined rejoicing in hearing flaws may not have truly meant it. Social psychology reveals that even when people know flattery is insincere or carries ulterior motives, they still eagerly listen to it with relish. This is akin to a pot needing mending and someone skilled at mending it. This may explain why, despite inwardly despising flattery, people still lend an ear to it. Following this psychology, waitresses in bars or nightclubs skillfully address customers as boss or director, pleasing countless men. Though these titles are merely professional flattery, those praised feel as if they're floating in a fairyland, truly believing they are bosses or directors. A salaried worker suddenly called a boss feels indescribable joy, even if only for a moment. Traditionally, we often judge people those who flatter are deceitful, while those who point out flaws are sincere. The latter are considered admirable, hence the sayings rejoicing in hearing flaws or criticizing flaws is an act of love. Fearing deception or loss, we become highly guarded, suspecting flattery to our core. At the same time, we're cautious not to praise others too easily, lest we be labeled as having a honeyed tongue. Praise often yields positive effects. At a film studio where actors performed freely, I asked the director for his secret. He replied, "After every scene I say good, whether it was good or not. And then I give specific guidance." Many coaches agree with this approach. There's a saying, a kind word warms a cold winter, but a harsh word chills a summer's June. If you praise someone saying your outfit looks great, and they're a teacher, their students will likely receive warmer smiles that day. If they're a doctor, their patients will likely receive kinder care. Fifth, the right key for the right lock. You may not realize it, but in daily life, praise is not only a lubricant, but also an antidote capable of resolving countless difficulties. Of course, one must be mindful to sing the song of the mountain you're in and use the right key for the right lock. Dealing with persistent suitors. This is a headache for many young women. In today's society where men and women interact closely in work and social settings, it's natural for some men to develop romantic feelings. The challenge for women is how to diffuse these feelings without damaging the relationship. One effective approach is to praise the man, bestowing upon him a grand title that compels him to act with restraint. As the saying goes, everyone loves beauty. When a young, attractive woman is approached, it's unfair to label all suitors as lustful. Instead, place a dragonfly hat on him, subtly obliging him to suppress improper intentions. For instance, a strikingly beautiful young woman responsible for product sales at a company was invited to dinner by a director from another firm after a business discussion. She attended the dinner as agreed, and the director was visibly delighted. While dining and chatting, she kept refilling his glass and praised him effusively, describing him as cultured, refined, trustworthy, and a respected modern entrepreneur. Flattered, the director humbly responded, "You're too kind." They danced together before parting, and as they said goodbye, he held her hand and said solemnly, "You are a woman of self-respect. I will always cherish your admirable image," extricating yourself from a misstep. When you misspeak, a clever way to diffuse the situation is to praise the other person. Harsh words make people uncomfortable, but compliments are readily accepted. Well-placed praise not only soothes the other person, but also helps you escape an awkward moment. For example, a tall, slender woman proudly showed her friends a new fitted dress, asking for their opinions. One friend, noticing the dress made her look like a mannequin, blurted out, "This dress doesn't suit you." The woman's face fell. Realizing her blunder, the friend smiled gently and said, "With your slim, graceful figure, a looser dress that reaches the knees would exude so much more elegance." Shorter, stockier people could never pull off that style. Hearing this, the woman's anger turned to joy. The friend's words tactfully suggested the dress wasn't suitable, while sincerely recommending a better style and praising her friend's elegant figure, delicately preserving her pride. A seemingly simple comment delivered with finesse helped her navigate the awkward moment gracefully. Stopping arguments in their tracks. In life, conflicts and arguments are inevitable even between spouses. When facing a dispute, even if you're in the right, excessive blame can worsen things. The best way to ease tension is to use humorous language, calming the other person's anger while clarifying misunderstandings. For instance, a wife who cared deeply about appearances wanted to discuss attending a friend's wedding with her husband. She insisted he buy her an expensive floral hat. With the family's finances tight, the husband refused. In the heat of the argument, the wife snapped, "Please, and Jin's husbands are so generous they don't skimp like you and happily buy their wives beautiful hats." Instead of escalating, the husband cleverly replied, "But neither of them is as beautiful as you. I bet if they looked like you, they wouldn't need fancy hats to shine." This witty, flattering remark made his wife laugh, dissolving her anger, and the argument ended happily. Handling arrogant people. Arrogant individuals often value their image, highly seeing themselves as superior. When interacting with them, the most effective approach is to subtly appeal to their interests, reasonably praising their achievements, knowledge, or talents. This satisfies their pride and makes them more approachable. For example, a notoriously haughty department head intimidated others with his cold demeanor. A visitor from afar, aware of his reputation, approached him with a smile, tossed his cigarette, and said, "Sir, upon entering, I heard you're a straightforward, meticulous leader with empathy, especially attentive to guests from afar. I'm thrilled to work with someone as admirable as you." This tactful praise brought a smile to the department head's face, creating a friendly atmosphere. Their subsequent work discussion went smoothly and was highly productive. The visitor's success stemmed largely from his initial praise, as few can remain cold to someone who respects and admires them. Arrogant people strive to maintain their image, so they tend to respond to praise with greater openness. However, when using praise, two key points must be noted. First, be sincere and grounded in reality. Compliments should be based on truth, not fabricated or overly exaggerated. Arrogant people are often perceptive. If they sense insincere flattery, they may scorn the speaker and become more distant. Second, know when to stop. Praise should serve as an icebreaker to build rapport, not dominate the conversation. Overdoing it without addressing the main topic renders the effort pointless. Subtle criticism. A fashion store received multiple customer complaints about poor service from its staff. Instead of direct scolding, the store manager took a different approach with remarkable results. Rather than criticizing, he focused on praising the staff. To those who received complaints, he gently said, "Some customers praised your friendliness and hope you'll keep it up. Others noted your politeness." This encouragement gradually changed the staff's attitude. They became cheerful and enthusiastic, significantly improving service quality and boosting sales. This is a sophisticated psychological approach, especially effective with women. Direct criticism often feels like a rejection of their entire character, leading to resistance or hurt. In contrast, praise makes them more receptive to feedback and motivates positive change. Thus, to help women address shortcomings, focus on praising their strengths rather than criticizing flaws. When they feel valued, they're more likely to enhance their strengths and adjust their weaknesses. In summary, praise is a master key, a valuable communication art that can be flexibly applied in many life situations. Sixth, the art of praise differs between men and women. In her work, a bus ticket seller learned a key lesson: when communicating, one must tailor their approach based on whether the other person is male or female. This insight wasn't random, but came from her careful observation of real-life situations. She shared an example. A male passenger with his young son boarded the bus. When she asked him to buy a ticket for the child, he protested, "He's not even in school yet. Why does he need a ticket?" Instead of arguing, she responded with humor, "Your son hasn't started school yet, but is already so tall and strong. Aren't you proud?" The man laughed and happily bought the extra ticket. On another occasion, after she encouraged passengers to give up their seats, a female passenger offered her seat to a man holding a crying child. The man, preoccupied with soothing his child, forgot to thank her. The woman, slightly displeased, gave him a glance. Noticing this, the ticket seller said to the boy, "Hey, little one, thank the lady." The bus is so crowded and she's tired but still gave up her seat for you. Realizing his oversight, the man quickly thanked her profusely. "Thank you so much. I was caught up with my kid and forgot my apologies." The woman smiled and replied, "It's nothing." From these experiences, she noticed something interesting when traveling with young children. Both men and women tend to focus on their kids and overlook their surroundings. However, their responses to giving up seats differ. Women rarely forget to say thank you, while men don't seem bothered if they aren't thanked. Her tactful communication made the bus atmosphere lighter and more pleasant. This leads to a deeper discussion about the differences between men and women regarding face and vanity. For men, face is tied to status, ability, and character. They openly project an image of competence and strength, and their vanity is often overt, sometimes even flamboyant. For the sake of face, men may argue, fight, or take extreme actions to defend their honor. Women, however, view face differently, focusing on appearance, clothing, and their ideal partner. While they also have vanity, they express it subtly, like holding a peeper to half cover their face. When their face is hurt, they don't resort to force, but express emotions through tears, resentment, or sharp verbal criticism. It's critical not to carelessly damage a man's face. Once it's broken, friendships can dissolve, relationships end, careers falter, and opportunities vanish like soap bubbles. Thus, when praising someone of the opposite sex, tact and skill are essential. A poorly worded compliment can be mistaken for blatant flattery or even seem tactless, ruining initial goodwill. Especially at a first meeting, an ill-chosen compliment may come off as insincere or sycophantic, leaving a bad impression. The art of communication lies not just in praising, but in choosing the right words and timing to make it appropriate and effective. When meeting someone of the opposite sex for the first time, vague praise is an effective strategy, as people tend to interpret ambiguous compliments positively. When communicating with women, several key points should be noted. First, how to handle asking female employees to leave early. If you need female employees to leave early, avoid saying bluntly, "You can go home." This may make them feel belittled or discriminated against. A sales manager once complained, "Women are so hard to understand, scold them they cry, praise one and others get upset." When he told 2 female employees they could leave early instead of being pleased, they snapped, "Everyone else is staying. Why should we leave?" This shows that women who work diligently don't want to be seen as weak or favored. A better approach is, "You've worked hard all day, you can head home early to rest." This tactful phrasing makes them feel valued rather than patronized. Second, don't praise one woman in front of others. There's a saying, "A woman's greatest enemy is another woman." While exaggerated, it holds some truth. Women are highly sensitive to social dynamics, especially comparisons. In a girls' high school, if a male teacher stood too close to a female student, the class might assume he had feelings for her. Though absurd, such perceptions led some male teachers to resign. Similarly, in a relationship, if a man walking with his girlfriend praises another woman on the street saying, "She's so beautiful," his girlfriend will almost certainly be displeased. Women rarely stay neutral in such situations, and praising another can unintentionally feel like a negative comparison. Third, don't join in when women complain about their husbands or children. During conversations, women often mention their kids or family, sometimes venting frustrations. For example, a mother might say, "My boy is so naughty I can't help but worry." If you agree, "Yeah, he's really hyper," she might not be pleased. Behind her complaint often lies pride, implying, "My son is very smart, just a bit lively." Similarly, when a woman complains about her husband, it's not always criticism, but often indirect boasting. For instance, "My husband plays golf every week and is gone all Sunday. He should care more about the kids," may mean. "My husband is busy, successful, and well-connected." If you respond, "You're right, he should spend more time with the family," she may feel dissatisfied. Instead, steer the conversation positively or introduce an interesting topic to broaden her perspective. This maintains a pleasant atmosphere and shows conversational finesse. In summary, communicating with women goes beyond mere praise. It requires finesse in expression. Using vague compliments, avoiding favoritism, and understanding the subtext behind their words are key skills for maintaining harmonious relationships.